Welcome to the third lecture of the respiration. We are going to discuss about internal respiration over here. I'll just recall about the last lecture. In the last lecture, we have discussed about the mechanism of respiration. We have started with the mechanism of respiration. We have discussed about breathing, where we have discussed about inspiration and expiration. Then we have discussed about external respiration or exchange of gases at alveolar layer. Now today we are going to discuss the next two part, that is internal respiration as well as the cellular respiration. Now in case of the internal respiration, it can be classified into two categories: transport of oxygen and transport of carbon dioxide. Okay, so internal respiration is broadly divided into part, that is transport of oxygen and transport of carbon dioxide. Now in case of the oxygen is carried out by either hemoglobin or plasma. So in the plasma, oxygen is seen in a dissolved state, whereas 97% of the oxygen is carried out by hemoglobin. Now what is hemoglobin? Hemoglobin is known as respiratory pigment, or it is also known as respiratory carrier. It has got very high affinity for oxygen. One hemoglobin, it is going to bind with 4 molecules of oxygen, and one hemoglobin molecule has 4 ions. Each one is going to pick up 1 molecule of oxygen. So each hemoglobin is going to carry 4 oxygen. So whenever the hemoglobin is going to combine with oxygen, now it is known as oxyhemoglobin. So if you see in the reaction, that is in the lungs, that hemoglobin is going to combine with oxygen to form oxyhemoglobin, and in the tissue, that oxyhemoglobin is going to dissociate into hemoglobin and 4 molecule of oxygen. Now we are going to discuss about that is oxygen dissociation curve. Now basically, what is oxygen dissociation curve? It is when you plot a graph of partial pressure against the percentage saturation for the oxygen. That graph is called as, or that curve you get is called as oxygen dissociation curve. Now the hemoglobin is going to combine with oxygen, but the saturation is depend on the concentration of oxygen. So I can say the degree of saturation of hemoglobin with oxygen is directly proportional with concentration of oxygen or oxygen tension or partial pressure for oxygen. PPO2 stand for partial pressure for oxygen. Now in that case, 100% saturation is very rare. That means all the hemoglobin are not going to combine with all the oxygen molecule. So 100% saturation is very rare. Maximum we can see the 95 to 97% saturation, and that can be seen at 100 mm of mercury column. So that is a partial pressure. So 50% of the saturation can be seen at 30 mm of mercury column. So the relationship between saturation, that is hemoglobin oxygen saturation, and oxygen that is oxygen tension or partial pressure, is known as oxygen dissociation curve. So in the first diagram you can see on the x-axis there is a partial pressure of oxygen, and on the y-axis there is percentage saturation of hemoglobin with oxygen. So the first diagram that is there in the NCERT textbook, if you see that graph you obtain or the curve you get, it is a sigmoid curve. So that curve is called as oxygen dissociation curve. Now if you observe it properly, that oxygen dissociation curve, it can shift to the right. Okay, so it can be shift to the right because of increase in H plus ion concentration, or increase in carbon dioxide concentration, or partial pressure for the carbon dioxide, it is one and the same, or increase in the temperature, or increase in a chemical called as DPG, that is 2,3-diphosphoglycerate in RBC. Because of that dissociation curve is going to shift toward the right side. Now always remember that curve can shift toward the right because of these 4 factors. Now what are these 4 factors? First, increase in H plus ion concentration. Second, increase in carbon dioxide concentration or partial pressure for the carbon dioxide. Third, increase in the temperature. Fourth, increase in DPG, that is 2,3-diphosphoglycerate in RBC, and because of all 4 factors, the affinity for the oxygen of hemoglobin is going to lower. and because of that it is going to shift toward the right side. If you see in the diagram, so that is shift of oxygen hemoglobin dissociation curve. Because of the change in the partial pressure for the carbon dioxide of the blood, it is shifted toward the right side. You can see there are three graphs. First is because of low level of carbon dioxide, second is because of normal carbon dioxide, and third is because of high level. So if there is high level, it is going to shift toward the right side, and if there is low level, it is going to shift toward the left side. So shift of oxygen dissociation curve due to the change in partial pressure for carbon dioxide in the blood is known as Bohr effect. So the second diagram represent Bohr effect. What is Bohr effect? The shift of oxygen hemoglobin dissociation curve due to the change in the partial pressure of carbon dioxide. So it can shift to the right or it can shift to the left. You can see in the diagram it is shifting toward the left because of low carbon dioxide, and it is shifting toward the right because of high carbon dioxide or high partial pressure for the carbon dioxide. So that effect is known as Bohr effect. Now you will come across one more effect that is called as a Haldane effect. Now in case of the Haldane effect, according to Haldane, oxygen hemoglobin, it is function as an acid. So whenever there is a decrease in the pH of the blood, okay, so decrease in the pH is because of increase in the H plus ion, and because of that there will be you can see that effect is called as Haldane effect. Okay, so here that is carbonate ion is going to combine with H plus ion to form water and carbon dioxide. So these two effects that you have to remember, one is called as Haldane effect, another is called as Bohr effect. Now the second part that we are going to study, that is about transport of carbon dioxide. We have already discussed about transport of oxygen. Now carbon dioxide is soluble in water and it is transported by both, again, RBC as well as plasma in three different forms. Okay, so 7% of carbon dioxide is transported in dissolved form, 70% of transported in the bicarbonate form, and remaining percentage is going to combine with hemoglobin. Okay, so here if you see that is a 7% is transported in the dissolved form, 70% is transported in the form of bicarbonate. How that we are going to see in the diagram. In the diagram you can make out that carbon dioxide is released from the tissue. Now that carbon dioxide is going to combine with water within RBC. Okay, now you can see carbon dioxide and water is going to combine and it is going to form carbonic acid. Now that carbonic acid is going to dissociate into two parts, that is H plus ion as well as bicarbonate ion. You can make out. So the first reaction, carbon dioxide is going to combine with water, it is going to form carbonic acid. Now the carbonic acid is going to dissociate into two parts, that is bicarbonate ion, that is bicarbonate ion and H plus ion. Now it is acted upon by, that is the enzyme called as carbonic anhydrase. Now this carbonic anhydrase it is going to responsible for dissociation. Okay, it is going to responsible for dissociation of carbonic acid, that is H2CO3. Okay, now that means first carbon dioxide is going to combine with water, it is going to form H2CO3. H2CO3 is going to dissociate into HCO3 and H plus ion. Now what happens here, the rate of formation is very high in the RBC. Now this H2CO3, it is going to release outside of, or it is going to transported out of the RBC into the plasma. You can make out in the diagram. So that bicarbonate ion is transported outside the RBC. Now when it is going to transport, there is imbalance inside the RBC. Now in order to tackle with imbalance, that chloride is going to enter inside. Now that phenomena is called as chloride shift, or it is also called as Hamburger's phenomena. Okay, I am repeating it again. First, tissue, that is carbon dioxide from the tissue, is going to combine with water. It is going to form bicarbonic or carbonic acid. Now that carbonic acid it is that is catalyzed by the enzyme called as carbonic anhydrase. Now that carbonic acid is going to dissociate into H plus and bicarbonate ion. That bicarbonate ion is going to transport outside the RBC. Now it is replaced by the chloride ion, and that phenomena is called as chloride shift, or it is also called as Hamburger's. It is also called as Hamburger's phenomena. Now the same diagram is there in your textbook. You can see from the tissue carbon dioxide is released. It is going to enter into the RBC. It is going to form H2CO3. H2CO3, that is carbonic acid. It is going to dissociate into HCO3 and H plus. Now HCO3 will be transported outside. It is replaced by the chlorine, that is called as chloride shift, and for that it required a special protein, that is a transport protein, or else carbon dioxide can directly combine with the hemoglobin. It is going to form carb-amino hemoglobin. It is going to form carb-amino or carb-amino hemoglobin. So already we have discussed that transport in the form of bicarbonate ion, so are approximately 70%, and transport by the RBC by 23%. Now what happens at the tissue level? Okay, that these entire flow chart is very, very important. Now here you can see that carbon dioxide is going to combine with water to form carbonic acid. Now that is catalyzed by the enzyme called as carbonic anhydrase. Now that carbonic acid is going to dissociate into H plus and HCO3 minus ion, that is called as a bicarbonate ion. Now in the plasma, that bicarbonate is going to combine with sodium or potassium to form sodium or potassium bicarbonate. Okay, look at the first. At the tissue level, carbon dioxide is going to combine with water to form carbonic acid, and now the carbonic acid is going to dissociate into H plus and HCO3 minus. At plasma, that HCO3 minus, which can come out by what you can say a chloride shift, it is going to combine with sodium to form sodium carbonate and potassium carbonate. Now in the RBC, that hemoglobin is going to combine with H plus ion, and it is going to form reduced hemoglobin or deoxyhemoglobin. You can see the same thing. So this H plus is going to combine with hemoglobin. In the diagram you can make out, it is going to form reduced hemoglobin, or it is going to form, that is a reduced hemoglobin, or it is also known as deoxyhemoglobin. Now at or within a lungs, what happens? That sodium carbonate within a plasma, now it is going to dissociate into again sodium ion and bicarbonate. Potassium bicarbonate is again going to dissociate into potassium plus bicarbonate ion. Now that bicarbonate is going to combine with H plus to H2CO3, that is called as carbonic acid. Now that carbonic acid is going to dissociate into water and carbon dioxide. Now in case of the RBC, already we have discussed that carbon dioxide is going to combine with hemoglobin, that is amino group of the hemoglobin. It is known as carb-amino hemoglobin. Okay, so in the tissue, that hemoglobin is going to combine with carbon dioxide to form carb-amino hemoglobin, and in the alveoli, that carb-amino hemoglobin is again going to dissociate into hemoglobin and carbon dioxide. So in case of transport of carbon dioxide, the 7% is carried out by in the form of dissolved form or by a dissolved form. 70% of the carbon dioxide is carried out in the form of bicarbonate, whereas 23% of carbon dioxide is carried out by RBC. So 7% plus 70% and plus 23% is carried out by, that is RBC. So transport of carbon dioxide can be divided into three parts. 7% in the form of dissolved format, then 70% in the form of bicarbonate, and 23% by hemoglobin. So 7% by plasma, 70% that is in the form of bicarbonate, and 23% by RBC. Now we are going to discuss about last step of respiration called as cellular respiration. So what we discussed today, so we have discussed about internal respiration. So internal respiration has two parts. that is transport of oxygen and transport of carbon dioxide. Transport of oxygen is further divided into two parts, 3% by plasma and that is 97% by RBC. Transport of carbon dioxide is further divided into 7% in the dissolved form, 70% that is in the form of bicarbonate and 23% by RBC. Now in the last step where the oxygen ultimately reach to the tissue. Okay, now the exchange of gases will occur at a tissue level. Now in that case, that oxygen will be provided to the tissue where it is utilized. Okay, there will be oxidation of food will takes place. For example, the glucose get oxidized in the last step to release the energy, that is in the form of ATP. So that is around 38 ATP will be formed during the last step of the cellulation. Okay, and ATP is formed by a process called as phosphorylation. Now what is phosphorylation? Is addition of phosphate group. So the ADP plus inorganic phosphate plus 7.3 kilocalorie is required to form ATP. So if you want to break ATP, you will generate around 7.3 kilocalorie. So cellular respiration involved, that is oxidation as well as phosphorylation. Okay, so the cellular respiration occur in case of eukaryote within a mitochondria. Mitochondria is called as powerhouse of the cell where the ATP are generated. So how it is generated, that we have discussed in 11th standard in the Krebs cycle and electron transport system. Okay, so this is all about, that is internal respiration, and the last part called as cellular respiration. This is the summary what we have done today. So we have learned about internal respiration and cellular respiration. Internal respiration is basically concerned with the transport of gases. Now what gases? First, transport of oxygen, and second is transport of carbon dioxide. Now what we have discussed in the transport of oxygen? First, by transport by the plasma, that is approximately 3% in the dissolved form. Second, transport of RBC, that is by 97%. What we have discussed in that? We have discussed about role of hemoglobin, that one hemoglobin is going to combine with 4 molecules of oxygen. Okay, then we have discussed about oxygen dissociation curve, that is a curve plotted on, that is the partial pressure on the x-axis against the percentage saturation on the y-axis, that we have discussed. We have discussed what factors are going to affect the oxygen dissociation. 4 factors we have discussed, I hope you can remember. Then we have discussed about Bohr effect, that is shifting of dissociation curve to the right side because of increase in the partial pressure. We have discussed about Haldane effect. Okay, so these points we have discussed. Then in case of transport of carbon dioxide, it is further divided into 3 parts. Transport in dissolved form 7%, transport in bicarbonate form, that is approximately 70%, and transport of by RBC, that is 23%. Now in case of transport in the form of bicarbonate, we have discussed the following point. What points? First, formation of carbonic acid at tissue level. Okay, where carbon dioxide is going to combine with water within RBC. Then we have discussed about dissociation of carbonic acid within RBC. Then we have discussed about chloride shift, okay, which is also known as Hamburger's phenomena. Then we have discussed about formation of sodium potassium carbonate in plasma. We have discussed about formation of reduced or oxyhemoglobin. So these are very important points. Then we have discussed about transport of RBC, formation of carb amino hemoglobin. You can remember that carbon dioxide is going to combine with amino group of the hemoglobin, therefore it is called as carb amino hemoglobin, and dissociation of carb amino hemoglobin within the lungs. So this is the entire summary of the cellular respiration. In the cellular respiration, there are 2 processes takes place, that is oxidation and phosphorylation. In the oxidation, ultimately there is generation of energy in the form of ATP, which can be converted into form of kilocalorie. So one glucose molecule can give rise to 686 kilocalorie. So what is phosphorylation? That is addition of phosphate group to the ADP to form ATP, and this all the event takes place at cellular level. So ATP generation takes place within a mitochondria in case of eukaryotes or in case of human being. So this is all about, that is a mechanism of respiration. So entire 4 part we have covered, starting from the breathing. Second is external respiration, third is internal respiration, and fourth is ciliary respiration.